Hey nerds, I will review my top 5 moments and honorable mentions from the second episode of The Pitt Season 2, starting now. Welcome back to the Nerd Social. I am Colin. Before we start, chapter times are below if you want to skip ahead, and remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, please check out our website, thenerdsocial.org, for more reviews and analysis from our contributors. So, episode 2 is titled 8 a.m. It is written by Joe Sachs and R. Scott Gemmill, and it is directed by Damian Marcano. So my thoughts on the second episode with some minor spoilers. Just like the first episode, it moved very quickly and picked up on some of the patient storylines from episode 1. The old woman with dementia, the Jane Doe baby, the girl who fell down the stairs, the man with memory loss, along with some new patients, the young woman who superglued her left eye, the bacon grease burn, and more I will mention later. That may or may not be resolved at the end of episode 2. We will have to find out where their storylines are next week, because at the end of episode 2 is left with a new patient coming into the ER on a cliffhanger. They really focused a lot on the patients in this episode with a wide range of problems. It is not as intense as last week, but I still had to turn my head a couple of times because of the gore. In terms of rating, I would give the second episode a 9 out of 10, which is a movie marathon. Same as last week, but this week focused again more on the patient stories rather than the doctors. It was very poignant and real at times, and speaks to how the greater society is represented in an emergency room situation. As I reveal my top 5 moments and honorable mentions, there are spoilers ahead for the Pitt Season 2, Episode 2, so get ready for that right now. Okay. So I want to start off with the honorable mentions first, which is the dislocation. So this happened at the beginning with the construction worker dislocating a bone in his armpit. Shows the professionalism of the team that to treat the patient, but also transferring him to another hospital due to his insurance situation as a blue-collar worker. Speaks to why the United States need a better health insurance system. So this is just a picture of how it happened with this guy. They showed it with much more gore. I had to turn away just for a few moments because the bone was sticking out of the skin. And then they had to basically sedate him so that they can operate on him more effectively without any pain on his end. The second honorable mention has to do with Dr. Langdon shutting off the lights for Dr. King in the exam room. He realizes that she had sensory overload and needed less stimulation. It was very thoughtful for him to do that. This happened because Dr. King hit her head on the floor after her patient was running away from the police, so she had a little accident, and so she had to be treated. Not sure whether or not she did have a concussion, but she seemed okay. It was a nice, thoughtful gesture that Dr. Langdon did for her. So, starting with number 5 of the top 5 moments is the 8-hour boner. The explanation seems somewhat reasonable from the patient. People do crazy things for love. There was a lot of jokes and lighthearted fun because obviously it's something they probably see very often in the ER. They did show the patient's body part in its erect state. It's very interesting to see how much blood is being drained from that part of the body. There's definitely a lot of squirming and skittishness from some of the nurses, especially some of the new nurses. For some of the older nurses, it's definitely old hat for them. Strapped college kid. This is the number 4 moment. So Dr. Robby went outside for a break. Dr. Al was there interrupting his moment of zen, and then the ambulance came in and there was a college student that was strapped onto a gurney and was going really hysterical. But we'll find out next week what happens to this patient, because like I said, there was a cliffhanger there. We don't know what happened, and we don't know what happened to all the other patients that they were dealing with in this 8 a.m. hour. So my number 3 moment is, who's the smartest student doctor? So this was really interesting to see, but Dr. Robby shut Dr. Javadi and Dr. Ogilvy down, that it's not always about who's the smartest in the room, but also can work well with others as a team player. So it was a good advice from an old hand that's been through a lot. And also, it was very funny to see Dr. Javati and Dr. Ogilvy switch it up very quickly and say, oh, yes, we could definitely work well together as a team. Definitely a personal rivalry between the two. And Dr. Santos actually picked up on that, whereas Dr. Javati is very defensive. So there was a nice exchange also between Dr. Santos and Dr. Javati, questioning her smartness amongst the group of doctors that are there. Number 2 moment of this episode is Nurse Emma's first 2 hours. First 2 hours have been very rough for her, dealing with a smelly man. A cast full of maggots was pretty awful and disgusting. And then the 8-hour boner that she had to deal with. Nurse Dana is like, this is nothing, with Emma being mortified beyond belief. It's very interesting to see that this is her first day, actually realize that this is her first 2 hours. And there's more probably for her to do. I am very curious to find out how she's going to be able to adjust to some more serious trauma that might happen during the next few hours in her shift. And then finally, for number 1, it has to be, for me, Dr. Robby with Noel, the case manager. So this picture here shows his empathy with the Jane Doe baby from episode 1. But Noel then comes in with as the case manager, talking about how, I think it was the blue collar worker that had to switch the insurance. There's definitely some type of romantic chemistry between the two. So I wonder what's their story besides that they had a fling. I think that they're trying to plant the seeds for that storyline in later episodes. So those are my top 5 moments and honorable mentions from the Pitt season 2 episode 2. Tell us what your favorite moments were from this episode by commenting down below. Like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. And we will see you next video. All right. Take care, everybody.